because you, as a grown man, is a weenie. That's why I said it. Because you are a weenie. Because you are a weenie. Even when I know what's a weenie took right. You know what I'm saying? I said it because you are a weenie.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy DefCon, and we are back with Random Rec for Dummies. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys some of my favorite tips and tricks for the game mode that we love to call Random Rec. If you do not know what Random Rec is, it is the quickest way to get a 5v5 going in the My Park, and there's a lot of good, but for the most part, there is a lot of ugly. And as a Random Rec veteran myself, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some of the things that I use to make the experience more enjoyable for myself, for other people. And if you are a veteran yourself at NBA 2K, you probably know a lot of this stuff already, and maybe you can even relate to some of the frustrating things that we all experience. Before we get into the video, I do want to say thank you guys for 10,000 subscribers. The sky is the limit from here, and dropping a sub, dropping a like does let me and the algorithm know that you are interested in more videos like this. So do me a favor, show your boy some love, and let's get right into it, man. This is my personal tip. Not everybody has to carry this into their games, but if you do play a lot of Random Rec, there is a guaranteed way that you can get the ball on any position. I don't care if you're a point guard, do not care if you are a small forward or a center. And the key is to pretty much just put offensive rebounding on your build. I don't care if you are a guard. This will pretty much guarantee you get yourself the ball a few times a game. And on top of that, you're helping your team. You know, you're getting your team a second possession. Anyone that isn't a big man usually will play against someone that doesn't even box out. So like you're getting guaranteed O boards, which can be guaranteed points or, you know, even guaranteed assists. And it is super cheap. It literally costs nothing. And you guys are going to see how cheap it is. You guys see we are 97 to 99. I'm just going to max this all the way out. It didn't really even move. You just run to the basket, press triangle. If you have high dunking, you can use square to get a putback dunk. Most of the time, you're not going to be boxed out if you're not a center. And honestly, after this recent patch, making it a little bit more difficult to shoot, now that people are playing like human beings and actually missing some shots, it's going to be clutch. Now, moving on to tip/rule number 2. If you do not have high strength or you are not a big man, please stop setting screens every single play. We do not need 3 people setting screens. You know, especially when you have a big man that probably has like Hall of Fame brick wall. You don't need to go set a screen. We don't need that many people setting screens, because a lot of the times all it does is just drag your man over there. They get bump steals. You know, whoever has the ball literally has no room to do anything. If you don't have high strength, why are you setting a screen? Especially if you have a 3-pointer on your build. What are you doing? I know it's frustrating to just sit in the corner and then spot up or go backdoor cut. I don't understand this. I still see this. I've been seeing this for like years, and I understand you're trying to help. Don't get me wrong, but this is not the way to go about it. Now, number 3, let me put y'all onto some more sauce. If you don't have steal on your build, another low-key method to force a turnover is to just draw charges, because the charge and the blocking system is pretty lax. You literally just have to act like you're setting a screen, but on defense. And what it comes down to is you being able to predict where the ball handler is going to go. So if you kind of know where they're going, if they're running down the court with a full head of steam, you just hold down the circle button and they will get a charge. It happens to slashers a lot. If you don't know the difference between a blocking foul and a charge, you draw a charge just by having your feet set, you know, ahead of time. Sometimes on defense, I'll literally just like run to some random spot near the ball handler and hold in circle or B or whatever your console is. And sometimes they'll just walk into you. It's a free turnover and your teammates will glaze you. This is a high IQ play. Learn how to create your own shot. If you strictly rely on spot ups or, you know, getting the ball on a cut, there's going to be games where you're not going to get that opportunity. So learn how to create your own shot. Like, I just want you to imagine you have 5 seconds with the ball and the shot clock is running down and you have 5 seconds to hop in your bag and just score the ball. You should be able to do that. If you want to expand your game, there's so many different moves in this game. It's not even about going left and right and peeking and all this other stuff that you see on YouTube videos. The hop jumpers this year are insanely good. A simple move that just gets you a little bit of space. You know, we have spin jumpers, which are really nice. So, you know, I highly recommend just adding some of this stuff in your bag. It's super easy, especially if you do use rhythm shooting. because it's all intertwined with the stick, you know? And half the time, like shots like this are actually easier to time than like standstill shots. You know, this does count for post fades, post hooks, you know, just add stuff to your bag. And most of the time, you actually don't need a super high ball handle rating to be able to do stuff like this. It already grants you like so much space. Now, my next point of advice. Learn how your team plays. Do not play every single game the same. It really depends on your role, but before the game starts, you feel me, you can see what your teammates are good at. You can see who they're matched up against. You know, you don't have to remember every single attribute about their player, but if you do see you have a slasher on your team and he's constantly, you know, cutting backdoor and getting wide open, you know, hit him on those cuts. It changes game to game. You know, there's some point guards that like screens. There's some point guards that play a little bit faster and they don't want any screens. You know, sometimes you have big men that can't shoot. You know, just learn how to play with your team. There's just so many different play styles, and you don't need to know these things off the rip. You feel me? Like as the game goes on, you can kind of like adapt to how your teammates play, and you know, maybe make life kind of easier for them. Here is another basic tip everybody needs to learn. If you see one of your teammates are cooking, do not ice them out. It makes no sense. It is like the opposite of a heat check. If you see one of your teammates are like going off or they have a mismatch, because some people, they'll score like 9 points for free with deep bomber or whatever the hell they got going on. It's just like real life, bro. You know, there's times where LeBron himself has literally passed the ball to D'Angelo Russell because, you know, he was just in that mode. Don't ice out your teammates. I'm not saying you have to force feed them. And this does go both ways. Just because your one teammate started out kind of bad, maybe he started off 0 for 3. I've done the same thing. You don't have to stop giving them the ball. Like, you're just making it worse. Let them get an assist. Let them get a quick bucket so they can shake off maybe their little shooting slump or their cold ring or whatever it may be. You know, just because someone starts bad, it does not mean they're bad at the game. Some of us just get in unfortunate situations, or maybe somebody was given a grenade a couple times and maybe their 0 for 2 is not actually 0 for 2. So don't really use the scoreboard as like an indicator of who is buns at the game until like it's like the fourth quarter of the second half. Another tip that kind of applies, do not play this game mode with 2 people. Please do not do it. Sometimes you can't. There are some exceptions if you have a PG in the center, but most of the time, if you're not running a PG in the center, stay at a 2-man rec. But most of the time, you're going to be playing with 3 people that are just going to play buddy ball. It's just not worth it. I genuinely think like 2-man rec is the absolute worst game mode in the entire game because you just have no control over most of the things that happen in the game. But kind of what we just talked about is going to lead us into my next tip. If you want to make this game mode a little bit more enjoyable, where you will thrive the most is by making a point guard or a center. By default, you know, since the beginning of 2K, point guards and centers have had the most control and impact over games, just due to the fact of the rebounding. You know, point guards pretty much control the entire pace of the game. These 2 positions have the most impact. If you want to have more impact in your games, if you want guaranteed touches, literally guaranteed touches every time you play, making a PG or center is the wave. Now, don't force it if you're not really familiar with the position, because a bad PG and a bad center is like 500 times worse than like a bad small forward. But you know, if you have some familiarity with playing those positions and you have not made them yet, just make like a random rec build. And that's going to tie into the next tip as well. If you play a lot of random rec, I highly recommend just making a random rec build. The best way to do that is to make an all-around build. And I find all-around builds to be the best in the game this year because we know lockdowns aren't great. You know, sharpshooters are really good. Post scorers are kind of like, you know what I'm saying? All-around builds are the best builds you can make in this game, especially because the build maker is pretty loose. You can make some really good builds. I can kind of do a little bit of everything. All-around builds and random rec is pretty much just going to allow you to fill in. You can play the 1, you can play the 2, you can play the 3, or the 4 if you make a decent small forward. If you have a versatile center, you know, maybe you can slot in at the 4 because you can pretty much just fit in any situation. I never thought builds carried players. Like, it's always about who is behind the sticks. Jack of all trades, master of none. I don't believe in that at all. You can make all-around builds insanely good and even carry some teams if you're like half decent at the game. Usually when I play random rec, I make a center or like an all-around center. You're guaranteed touches, you can pass the ball, you can do everything. You always get your stats, so you're always going to get your rep and like whatever else it may be. I have had a lot of success doing this. Another basic tip that I hope a lot of people adapt to, and this is something you should just apply to your everyday life. Stop arguing in game chat, bro. It does nothing. I understand some people want to talk smack on the game, but there are seriously like some super sensitive people that if you say anything to them, or if they get a timeout called on them, they'll just sell the game. Like, they'll just stand at the end of the court, like holding their nuts, and they just won't play the game. And then you get an instant loss. Try to approach them in a way that's not going to hurt their feelings, because sometimes you will literally just get an instant loss because somebody got upset on your team. None of that crap. Like, don't call timeouts. Don't do any of this stuff that just makes it toxic, because there's other people in the game that just want to play and they're just sitting here watching this. So just keep that in mind. I recommend communication. I vouch for it, and communicating makes the game easier. When it comes to cutting, setting screens, whatever it is, people don't get as mad at you if you are communicating with them. You feel me? A lot of people have microphones. A lot of y'all are on PlayStation, bro. There's literally microphones built into the controllers. You don't have to communicate with your teammates. I understand some people want to chill, listen to music. We need to minimize so much of the toxicity in this community. You just have to know that not every single game is going to be your game. I've had games where I've had 29 points, 20 rebounds, 8 assists. Next game, I barely touched the ball. That's just how it is. You can't get upset. It's random wreck. This is literally what you're signing up for. It's a dice roll. You're going to win or you're going to lose. You can only have so much impact on every single game because every single person you play with is different. So if you're not prepared for that, don't play this game mode, because that's exactly what it's going to be. I understand some people don't want to sit in the corner. I understand some people hate playing with point guards that just like to score. But unfortunately, this is kind of what you're signing up for in the rec. If you're not mentally prepared to have some role player games, maybe you go back to my career. It is what it is, man. Use your timeouts wisely. At least in this 2K, in 2K26, a lot of games come down to the wire. Use timeouts for things like stopping momentum. If somebody's hitting up on the other team and they're getting their takeover, use your timeouts, bro, because they actually help. Like, it's real life. It stops momentum. You can feel the momentum switch in this game. Use your timeout. If they go on like a 9-0 run, call a timeout, bro. It's kind of a simple tip. It's stupid. It genuinely does help me more than, a lot of people would think. Sometimes you gotta, hop in your Doc Rivers bag, man. Call a timeout. And let's move on to the next tip, passing. A lot of people don't like this word. Passing the ball does not always have to be an assist. And what I mean by that is just like move the ball around. You don't have to play like the Spurs. Just moving the ball around creates opportunities for just random stuff to happen. If you don't see an assist opportunity, it does not mean you don't have to pass the ball. Sometimes there's dudes on your team that can just get a bucket by themselves, or sometimes passing the ball to someone will lead to them finding someone else that's open. Like, just move the ball around. I'd say maybe like each person should really be having the ball for like around 6 seconds each. You don't need to dribble for that long. And there is 24 seconds on the shot clock. Remember that. Y'all don't have to rush things. There's plenty of time to score. Like, 24 seconds is a lot of time for 5 people to score 2 points or 3 points. So just know that passing does not always have to lead to an assist. Another thing that I assume most 2K players know, space the floor. I'm not saying every single team has to run 5 out. I know there's people that can't shoot. I know there's post scorers. Like, I understand that. Spacing the floor does not always mean just playing 5 out. You can move around, but move into open space. There's plenty of open space on the court. Like, if you see somebody sitting in the corner, like, why would you run into the same corner? It makes no sense. So like, when you're moving your player, you literally just try to be as far away from the ball handler and your teammates as much as you can. The less space, the worse it gets. And that's all I really gotta say. I don't have to talk about that one too much. Big men. You can help up top. You can help show for your guards if the other team is setting screens and their PG keeps getting open. Don't yell at the PG. It's really hard to get around screens, especially because Pick Dodger, I don't think that badge has worked in like 10 years. Sometimes the PG on your team is literally just getting screened. He's not getting cooked, but there's only so much he can do when he's combating 2 people at the top of the key. So you don't have to switch. I understand most people don't want to switch. It's probably not wise to switch in random rec unless you guys are communicating. But what you can do, you can just show for them. Act like you're going to switch. And that's all you really have to do. You just have to hedge a little bit. But just try to help your teammates as much as you can. But don't do it at the cost of letting your man score like 50 points. And if you see the other team is taking advantage of you helping, you just kind of stop helping. Sometimes you just got to let people die, but help your teammates. People that play basketball don't just focus on one man the entire time. Defense is, in my opinion, still the biggest part of this game. Even though it's really offensive powered, you can score 95 points, but if you gave up 102, like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So just help your teammates as much as you can and kind of adapt to how the other team is reacting to that. There are literally some games that are not winnable, and you have to accept that. Like I said earlier in the video, it is a dice roll. If you feel like you did the best you could with the opportunities you were given, it is what it is, man. So don't tilt. The best way to enjoy this game, you feel me? Turn on some Spotify, sit back, relax, grind your player, grind some rep, have fun, just listen to music. Or, you know, if you got some funny or cool teammates, you know, communicate with them and talk to them, because y'all could end up making a squad later down the road and you guys keep running games together. Like, don't get mad at random wreck, bro. It is like chasing the dragon. It is a never ending thing. This is how it's always going to be, and you have to accept that. But we still love it, man. But hopefully my random wreck for dummies guide has helped some of you. Maybe some of you guys can relate to me, the things I experience in this crazy game mode. But I appreciate you guys for watching my video. And once again, thank y'all for 10K. You know, we're about to hit 50K on the talk. If y'all don't know, I did make an Instagram. I'm trying to get on all the socials, so it's going to be in my description on my channel, so you guys can stay in contact with me. I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all in the next one.